Perhaps we need to revisit the brilliant thought paths of our Paleolithic ancestors and recover enough cognitive function to correct the impossible messes civilization has created before the echidnas decide to sack us all and take over as the custodial species of this planet. The stories that define our thinking today describe an eternal battle between good and evil, springing from an originating act of sin. But these terms are just metaphors for something more difficult to explain, a relatively recent demand that simplicity and order be imposed upon the complexity of creation, a demand sprouting from an ancient seed of narcissism that has flourished due to a new imbalance in human societies. There is a pattern to the universe and everything in it, and there are knowledge systems and traditions that follow this pattern to maintain balance, to keep the temptations of narcissism in check. But recent traditions have emerged that break down creation systems like a virus, infecting complex patterns with artificial simplicity, exercising a civilizing control over what some see as chaos. The Sumerians started it. The Romans perfected it. The Anglosphere inherited it. The world is now mired in it. The war between good and evil is in reality an imposition of stupidity and simplicity over wisdom and complexity. A collection of pages filled with marks representing speech sounds is a complicated way of communicating, particularly when you want to convey a practical sense of the pattern of creation that might shed light on current crises the world is facing. Complicated, not complex, they are two very different things. Viewing the world through a lens of simplicity always seems to make things more complicated, but simultaneously less complex. For an Indigenous Australian coming from an intensely interdependent and interpersonal oral culture, writing speech sound symbols for strangers to read makes things even more complicated. That is exacerbated when the audience is preoccupied with notions of authenticity and the writer's standing as a member of a cultural minority that has lost the right to define itself. The ability to write fluently in the language of the occupying power seems to contradict an Indigenous author's membership in a community that is not supposed to be able to write about itself at all. So at this point, I will need to explain who I am and how I came to be writing this. In my own world, I know myself as my community knows me. A boy who belongs to the Unabridged clan from Western Cape York, a Wik-Mungkan speaker with ties to many language groups on the continent currently known as Australia, including adoptive ties. Some adoptive ties are informal, such as those I have in New South Wales and Western Australia, but my customary adoption, 2 decades ago into Unabridged, is under Aboriginal law, which is strict and inalienable. This law prevents me from identifying with Nunga, Koori, Scottish affiliations by descent, and demands that I take on exclusively the names and roles and genealogies required of Unabridged clan membership. I honour this no matter what, even though I know most people don't understand it, and it makes me look silly. While people in the South tell me I look Indian or Aboriginal or Arab or Latino, when I stand beside my very dark-skinned adoptive father, I look like Nicole Kidman. My life story is not redemptive or inspiring in any way, and I don't like sharing it. It shames and traumatizes me, and I need to protect myself as well as others who have been thrown about in the cyclones of this messy colonial history. But people insist on knowing about it before reading my work for some reason, so here's the condensed version. I was born in Melbourne, but relocated north as an infant, then grew up in a dozen different remote or rural communities all over Queensland, from Bunarabi to Mount Isa. After a challenging and often horrific period of schooling, I was